basically you're trying to get into cybersecurity. Maybe a quick rundown, a quick recap of your goals with getting into cybersecurity. Like what do you want out of it? Like I guess ideally a 9-to-5 job, higher pay than what you're currently doing right now. Is that right?
Absolutely. My goal is to with this course in specific, have it be the basis of my understanding to get a red team pen testing job, 9 to 5. I would very much like to be part of an offensive team and get a secure, to me, very high paying job in cybersecurity, and whatever time frame that takes, that specifically, that's my goal. I want to be in a place where I either do go to an office, or I preferably work remotely, and I work in a team, and I'm able to be an ethical hacker, and very much just try and break into these websites. That definitely appeals to me, and yes, that's my goal.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that should help me come up with a plan for you. That's definitely something that is possible to find pretty abundantly here, is the remote work opportunities. Understand that, like, you're based in Hawaii, so it should be accessible even without having to move or anything like that. You should be able to find a remote opportunity. And if you wanted to move, of course, you could do that as well. So you have a lot of flexibility. Most of the jobs are remote. One thing that I said on the course is that for me personally, the only reason that I have to stay in the US is that my job interfaces with federal, and it's like more of a federal law than anything, of why I have that restriction. But for the most part, yeah, you have a lot of freedom to work from wherever. Most of the people on my team, aside from me and one other person, I think there's about like 24 or more other people that are from all different countries, so like Mexico, China, Malaysia, all over. So yeah, there's definitely, where you're located is not going to be a showstopper for anything. But yeah, there was one question that when we're talking a little bit earlier here that you brought up that I thought was like really good. And you're asking about networking at conferences, and, you wanted me to basically give you an idea, a picture of what, some of these conferences are like. Is that more or less what you're asking?
Absolutely. I would love to know more about the type of environment and, the air, so to speak, in these conferences, how people, sort of the presentations, and how people, interact with each other on a more, to kind of get that on a more specific level. Yeah, if you could expand on that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So overall, before I go into the conference part, overall, the feel of cybersecurity in general compared to most fields is a lot more laid back, a lot less corporate, I guess you would say. A lot of it is, a lot of the people in the space are very like more casual and stuff like that. So a lot of times, like what I mean by that, a lot of times is that there tends to be a lot less like politics and stuff in the workplace, like on the pen testing. Like if you're doing technical work on the pen testing side. Now, when I worked for government, I got to say there was quite a bit of politics involved there, but it wasn't really within my team. It was mostly the other organizations. But like the work culture, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The work culture of cybersecurity, of like pen testing especially, is a lot more laid back, is how I would describe it. So now, as far as the conferences go, it does vary a bit depending on what conference you go to. But some of the conferences can be like actually where I think it's changing a little bit now, but there were some conferences back in the day where it would be so laid back that sometimes people would be presenting on like 0-day vulnerabilities and like stuff they found that you're like, you kind of question the legality of it. That was like some of the smaller conferences back in the day, which is kind of cool in some ways. But now I would say that because that's the roots of hacking, right? The hacking stuff, not too long ago, it was like more of an underground thing. Now it's like more of an acceptable thing, more of a something you see in the corporate world, but that's a pretty recent development. So that's also, I think, what is a really good opportunity about this space, right? Everyone's like trying to get into tech right now, it seems like, but most people they're only looking at software development because most people aren't aware of, pen testing and stuff like that, because it's actually very new relative to the tech space. So um, even like a lot of these huge companies that you would assume, I think I mentioned this in the course, but a lot of the like huge companies that you would just assume they would have this super mature security program, and like they would have all these pen testers and everything built out. You come to find out that, oh, they just created their pen testing team like 6 months ago or something like that. And like, so a lot of these companies are in their infancy on this stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity to join. There's definitely a lot less competition, I would say, in cybersecurity versus people going for software development jobs. But, everyone needs a software developer. So I feel like it kind of balances out. But yeah, compared to like, and you find that with IT in general, it's always a little bit more laid back than like, say, finance or, something like that. But yeah, especially cybersecurity, really laid back. Everyone has like their own like hacker handles or whatever that they go by online. And yeah, so sometimes like some guys use like really like ones that you would question, like, should you be using that in like a corporate setting or whatever? But, it is like a lot more laid back in general. And now some of the other conferences are, maybe they're a little bit more corporate, but they all still have that kind of community, like laid back feel. Like everyone is pretty helpful to other people in the space as well, because there are, it's a pretty small niche, I would say, still relatively, right? If you think about software development, that's like a much bigger area as far as like the number of people that are developers or trying to become developers. But what you'd find is you could even go on YouTube or on Twitch. Some people stream like they're hacking and stuff like that, and you can ask them questions and they almost always respond to you because they're normally pretty small and personable. So it's a pretty cool space for all that. Now, going more in depth on the conferences. So usually the way it works, just so you know, is that usually, you go into the conference, you have a bunch of different vendors there a lot of times. So different security vendors, especially, and you can talk to them. And a lot of times they like different vendors will have booths up. A lot of times they'll be recruiting, they'll be looking for people depending on like what conference it is. Sometimes they do that as well. And they talk about their company and stuff like that. So there's a lot of opportunity to network in a more direct sense, I guess you would say. But then there's also usually a bunch of hacker challenges that you can participate in as well while the conference is going on, which is pretty cool. So there's like different hacking challenges, and a lot of times there's like different even like competitions and stuff like that where you could participate in as well. And that could be a great opportunity to network as well, because you could, sometimes they have like team-based challenges and stuff like that where you put a team together. So you could meet some people at an event and see if they have a team. And if not, you'd be like, oh, you want to put a team together and, do this challenge or whatever. And that could be a great way to network with people as well. And then depending on the conference, there's some that are in like Las Vegas and these different areas that have a vibrant, like nightlife scene and stuff like that. And a lot of times people will, after the conference, they'll go for drinks and stuff like that. And even at the smaller conferences, I've seen it as well, where there's like a happy hour event or something afterwards. And obviously, that's also a great opportunity to network when people are, in that more casual setting as well. And then they always have talks that go on during the conferences where people will present on different topics. A lot of times you can learn some pretty cool stuff through that. And, you can network with the people that are at that specific talk that you're at, because chances are if they're interested in that same topic in cybersecurity, you might have some stuff in common with them. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to network, but that's basically like the overall feel of it.
Alrighty. That sounds about right. I think it's definitely kind of funny that people still have hacker names, after
Yeah.
You know, I remember watching the 95 movie Hackers. I was like, that was one of the points in the film. It's like everybody's got a hacker name, and that's
Yeah.
still there, and that's cool. Honestly, it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
you gotta come up with a good one, in between now and whenever. So
I'll think of something cool. You know, maybe a
yeah,
pun. Who knows?
yeah. Yeah, so the next question I had for you is obviously like when you came into the course in the beginning, you were a complete beginner, and now you've went through it, and obviously 4 weeks isn't enough to like completely be job ready or anything like that. But with all that being said, where do you feel you're at with the material that you learn, like with the web app stuff in general?
So where I think I'm at right now is a very good with everything that you covered in the course. I think I'm in a very good position of understanding the basics to then springboard into the next, year or so, the next step of understanding each and every one of the vulnerabilities in depth. And before that, as a complete beginner, I wouldn't have known where to start. I would be like, do that here, there, like the foundation would have been shaky, as opposed to me having taken the course now. I now have a solid foundation of understanding. And from that foundation, I'll be able to build the technical skill and the expertise necessary to secure a job. Thanks to the presentation of the course, and you taking us through us and you walking it through, guiding us in a sense, that foundation is a lot more secure than had I done it on my own. And so, I still think I'm very much a beginner. However, I know now the understanding, it's all cementing in place. I said in, I think, webinar 5 or 6 or 4, it was one of them where I was like, I'm starting to really understand this stuff now. Like, it's not just flying over my head. I'm getting it. I understand it. And the foundation as it is there now, like, it's up to me to go forth, to keep learning, take another course, but apply what you've taught. And in the 4 weeks, I think that all of us in the course learned a heck of a lot more than we would have had we attempted to do it on our own. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, exactly. That was my goal with the course. So I'm glad to hear that was the experience that you had, because obviously 4 weeks is no one's gonna like be like super solid on web app pen testing in only 4 weeks. But the goal was more so to get you exposed to all these different things, and like you said, over time is really how this stuff sinks in for everyone. And that's a good point you made as well, because I think one important thing to keep in mind during your journey with this is you might have like, several days might go by and you're practicing every day, but you don't notice any improvement, any noticeable change. But then, a week down the line or a month down the line, maybe you look back and you realize how much better you are than you were, before. So that's kind of how it happens over time. But because half the battle is figuring out what it is you don't know, right? So now there's some, probably I would guess that there are certain areas where you feel stronger than in others with the web app pen testing stuff. So then going forward, you at least know what those things are, so like how you can fix up the weaknesses that you have and keep moving forward. Yeah. So I'm curious, what did you have in mind for your next steps? What were you thinking?
So the next step that I'm going to be taking is continuing the Portswigger Academy line. And can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
something went off. I'm going to continue the Portswigger Academy line, and once I finish all the entry level, a few of the practitioner and expert level stuff, once I get a firm grasp, I'm going to continue through that. look into the different certification processes and what is necessary to obtain them, and take that time to build the technical understanding of web app pen testing, and utilizing Portswigger, and I think I signed up for Code Academy as well. There's the free thing that they do there. Looking more into GitHub, and just obtaining the knowledge necessary, obtaining the language, because it is a different language, so to speak, and especially when it comes to the when it comes to the injection types and the HTML, not codes, the HTML inserts that you can write and everything, and understanding what this does and this JavaScript injection does, and these learning more the basic understanding of JavaScript, HTML, and getting everything together necessary for what is needed for a job, because ultimately that is the goal, getting to the point where I have the skill set necessary to apply and get a job if I were to be given a challenge. And so
Okay.
so those are the next steps for me, where I'm going to be continuing on through the Portswigger Academy, continuing to learn the next steps of the programming language and the understanding, more vulnerabilities, and until whatever place is necessary for a job, the end goal. The end goal is a job, of course.
Gotcha.
And then from there, you always learn more. Like, you're always learning even when you're on the job. But my immediate goal is I want to get to the point where I get the job. I get that skill set necessary to get the job, and then I'll figure it out after that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's definitely good information for me. I think I could definitely help you in this call come up with maybe make some adjustments to that plan. And there's certain things that I want to bring to your attention to make sure that you also learn along the way, just to make sure that you're job ready. But yeah, before I get into that, what is your time frame that you're looking at to get a job from here?
So my current time frame, unfortunately, I still have to work my my normal jobs. I work a lot, so usually it's between 6 and 7 days a week I'm working. I don't need to work that necessarily, but I kind of do, with rent here in Hawaii being very, very high, and various other things. So my projected time frame is between 10 and 14 months, I think, after listening to the whole webinar and asking questions about the necessity and the application. I think about 10 to 14 months, maybe 16 is about the time frame I am projecting myself personally, because as much as I would love to, I personally am not able to apply five solid hours a day. I just I'm unfortunately can't. I've got too much work. So as much as I would like to, I will be able to, I think, have that skill set necessary from what I know now. About 10 to 14 months is my current projection.
Okay. Yeah. And so I'm just curious about how much time were you putting in over the course of the course, like on a daily basis or a weekly basis, would you say?
On a weekly basis right now, I'm putting in about on average, I would put in about 8 hours total a week. Yeah, about 8 hours total, because every day, and I'm going to be changing it up. You actually gave us a lot of very good stuff at the end of the course. So I'm going to be changing that up to the Pomodoro technique, and I'll be doing things in the morning, instead of the end of the day.
Gotcha.
and applying different sort of efficiency techniques in order to get more done in the time that I do have. And I will be upping that as well, because now that the webinar is done, I'll be able to
Right.
apply
Yeah.
more time into specific times, follow, listening to, walkthroughs and various other things and getting that in. So I'm looking at, upping that from, 8 hours a week to maybe something closer to, 12 to 16 hours a week.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen here in a second, and I'll kind of come up with that roadmap for you, sort of game plan, so you know where to go from here. Yeah. So if you are most interested in the web app stuff, you could follow something pretty similar to this, and I can send you this after the call. That way you have it. But basically what we did in the course is we covered, the HTTP basics. We covered mostly, we did the most basic of programming a little bit, kind of like I kind of went over like what SQL was, what HTML was, what XML was, but we didn't really get into any higher level languages like Python or anything like that. But mostly we went down this kind of path right here of the basics, and then Burp Suite. And then we went into various vulnerabilities that would kind of fall in this category for black box web app pen testing, or even wider gray box pen testing. We just covered a lot of vulnerabilities that, you would need to know for web apps, right? So, this is where, and I went over this on the call a little bit too. And I think my YouTube video, I'm not sure, is that out yet? Yeah, I think it should be out now as well. So you can watch a video that I did on this as well.
Yeah, it's out. I have it downloaded.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So what I would recommend for you specifically is, and if you want to go and rewatch some of the webinars from the course just to re-solidify some of the knowledge and stuff, that's completely fine. But after that, I would say you want to focus in on learning some basic networking and command line stuff. And I know you mentioned at some point to me, you mentioned programming. Yeah, like you're going to do Code Academy. Yeah, that'd be great. Then you can learn some programming and stuff as well. So these are the areas that you want to focus on next, because these are going to be the foundational knowledge that you need. Because even though you could just do web app pen testing, you could get a job where that's all you do, but you're still going to need, even to do the testing, you're going to need to have some knowledge of this other stuff here just to be able to really effectively do this job. And as well, when you're in job interviews, they're going to expect that you have basic knowledge of stuff like network pen testing and all these things here as well. So on this tree here, I would say, yeah, you could be asked about Linux, Windows, the privilege escalation stuff and Active Directory, just as part of the interview process. And then same thing with with this automation stuff here, maybe lightly. I would say though, this stuff is a good bonus. And if you're going to focus on web app pen testing, then having that coding background is really important. But I will say that this area here is before you apply to a job, you want to at least have a basic understanding of all the things right here on this tree. Yeah. And then this tree as well, these two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, again, one of the many things that I've learned in my life is, starting at the bottom, it isn't that bad. And so, if there's a position where the pay isn't as good, but the knowledge base is less necessary, and I can build it up from there and then transition into something, greater, that's definitely another option that I would love to do. get in at the ground floor and work my way up is something that I've done my whole life.
And along with what you just said there is that if you do kind of follow this path here, this kind of mind map here, once you get to this stage here and you're applying to jobs, just from all this other learning that you've done previously, you will probably be pretty qualified for some of the other IT positions as well, like a network administrator kind of role, because you have solid network basics and you even know some network pen testing stuff. So you have the network background. And from this tree here, you're going to have a solid understanding of system administration. So you would also qualify for a lot of, like Windows system administrator, Linux system administrator, and those could be good intermediary jobs that get you into cybersecurity down the line as well. So once you're applying to jobs, these are ones you can consider as well, that you would actually be pretty qualified for. That was one thing that really surprised me personally. Once I spent like even after my first year of working in the field, I was like really curious about, what are the job interview questions and stuff like that for like a network administrator or a system administrator. And I just like watched some videos on YouTube of people that specialized in that. And they like had some common questions and things like that. And I was really surprised to find that I knew the answer to almost all of those questions. So yeah, you could definitely, that's the nice thing about following something like this, is that it gives you a lot of opportunities to then get in the field so many different ways, because that is the unique thing about this path here. And I mean, even this, right? This is just one path that I came up with, right? There's so many other adjustments, so many tweaks and permutations of this, I guess you would say, that, yeah, this field in general, there is no one set path to get into it. Like, it's not at all like becoming a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. And what you'll find is, like, once you are in the field, almost everyone you work with will have a different story as far as like what their backstory is, how they got into the field. So yeah. Do you have any questions on any of this while we're here?
Well, I mean, you said a network administrator is a possible, intermediate job. Is there any other, potential intermediate like positions before transitioning into cybersecurity that are within this tree that are kind of available, or is that, just about it?
Yeah, network administration, system administration through this. I said, yep. Especially so, with you could be a Linux system administrator if you learn all about Linux and learn some Linux privilege escalation and stuff. Along that journey, you're going to learn a ton about Linux. And honestly, even doing other stuff like the network pen testing, you're going to be using Linux all the time for that. And yeah, over time, you're really going to develop a lot of knowledge in that area. So at that point, yeah, you may very well qualify for a Linux system administration job. And then with Windows, if you go through this full tree here, you learn about the Windows operating system, the privilege escalation, and you learn about Windows Active Directory, then that's going to position you very well for a Windows system administration job as well. So those are the three main ones, I would say. I wouldn't recommend another good springboard into cybersecurity is programming, but personally, I wouldn't recommend trying to use it in that way, because it requires a lot of time and effort to learn programming to like a software development level.
Yes, I learned that myself looking into Python originally, or early last year, is that the necessary entry fee, so to speak, is a lot higher.
Yeah.
You got to know a lot more. Because the demand for software development is just, you gotta know all this different stuff.
Yeah. And I would say between the network administration and system administration will be a little bit easier to get into, if I had to say, because with the network administration stuff, you're going to have to learn some extra stuff to pass the interviews for that. most likely. Whereas with the system administration stuff, you're going to learn, I would say, like 90% of it naturally as you're learning pen testing. So, and those jobs are very abundant as well, because if you think about how many server, like everything is ran on a server for like all these companies, right? And all these companies have some kind of digital presence. So, yeah, those are everywhere. Now, I mean, I guess some companies like the smaller ones and stuff, they might outsource all that and have like some kind of hosting provider that does all that stuff. But still, there's tons of jobs where they have like their own servers and stuff like that, and they need system administrators to manage that. Even if they do use third parties, people still manage like the controls on that, right? A lot of people use like AWS and stuff like that, and then that would be like cloud, the cloud stuff, which that's a little bit, if you're, that can be like a whole nother focus area within cybersecurity, is like cloud pen testing. But yeah, I would say specifically for your, if you follow a similar path to this, or just straight up follow this path, then yeah, the system administration would be the easiest one to get into, and then network after that, I would say.
Alrighty.
But yeah, if you're able to, I mean, very well, you might be able to get straight into this field, especially if like we were talking about earlier, if you're able to network with someone, or if you just apply to enough jobs, you can still get into the field straight away. Maybe, yeah, as a very conservative estimate. If you had no certs, you had no anything, and you didn't network with anyone, worst case scenario, I'm sure you would be able to find something by then. But really, yeah, the hardest part is just going to be getting through the HR filters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If you're actually learning this stuff hands-on, right? Like we were doing in the course, and then beyond the course, you keep it up and you're learning this stuff in a very hands-on way, then that's going to allow you to, that's going to build up a lot of actual skill at this stuff. And there's a lot of technical aspects to interviews nowadays. I've noticed with companies, they often have a technical component to it, and you're going to do great in those. It's actually the people that go the more traditional school route and stuff like that. They often are the people that struggle on the technical portion, because they don't actually apply this stuff like hands on the keyboard pretty much. So yeah, I think you'll have a big advantage there once you get your foot in the door. And if you have a cert, then like, especially if you have a decent cert, it won't take nearly as many jobs that you need to apply to.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, that's definitely a good roadmap for sure.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that is I probably should have put it in here somewhere, but what I would recommend as well is to download a free application called VirtualBox. It kind of looks like this here. And basically what it allows you to do is you can install virtual machines in this, and each one you can think of as like a computer inside my computer, basically a virtual computer. So what I did is I have like Kali Linux installed, and you can just say like Kali Linux, or you could do any other version of Linux you want to use. Kali is a good one because it comes prepackaged with a bunch of security tools that you'd use. This is really popular amongst pen testers. Mm-hmm. You could just go off of their site, and you can download it from their website, and that'll download a file. There should be instructions on how to get this. Yeah, in VirtualBox. So you come here, you download the VirtualBox version here, and then you would just like import it into here, and then you'd basically have like a whole Linux system within your system. And as you see here, I have a couple Windows servers and stuff as well. But that's how I was doing it on the course, where I was able to launch Linux. So that's a great way to get some exposure to Linux. And if you're on a Mac, then Windows as well. Mm-hmm. And when you're learning this stuff, it's great to have like your own practice, your own training environment. So that's what I use these for. I have my own, like I put together my own hacking labs and stuff like that. It's a really good way to learn this stuff hands-on. So as you're learning Linux and stuff like that, I would definitely recommend as a very, very, a step you should perform really soon after you go through the course and stuff. Once you learn that, while you're learning some of the networking stuff, just start playing around with virtual machines. So.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the consult. It was fun. So yeah, I hope to hear from you again soon.
Uh, for sure, I will definitely. I'm, as money is kind of tight, I definitely wanted to put my money where my mouth is and take a course. But I will. I'm still like 50-50 on the year pass because I don't have quite enough money in to do it right now, but by the end of the week I probably should. So
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know if I end up doing that or not. But yes, I very much appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you very much. You will definitely be seeing me again. I appreciated greatly the course and your mentorship. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.